Hey, welcome back to YouTube. Today we're going over the best heavy arrow on the market. You're going to want to find out.
Well, I've never been one to go by the rules. Well, I didn't care what was in. Well, I didn't care what was cool. Well, I've always been a little reckless and wild and free. The older I get, the younger I wanna be. Yeah, 'cause I'm still some kind of crazy, out on the edge.
Alright, so I like heavy arrows. Channel's named Heavy Arrow. I believe in the Ed Ashby studies and that high FOC heavy arrows just perform better. Now they might not hit the target better, you might not be able to win 3D competitions, but I think they perform better in live critters. Back to the review, mini rant in there. These are the Grizzly Stick Momentums. This is the which one's this one? This is the 250, 350, or 320. 320. And this one is the 250. I think 250. 240. Grizzly Stick decided to be a little different. So then they have a 400 is like their weakest spine, and they go all the way down to like a 170. And the reason I'm doing a review on these arrows is because this is the best heavy arrow system I've seen. This is the closest to the Ed Ashby studies arrows you're ever going to get. They checkmark all the, they even have a box to get a 650 grain arrow. Right there. Like, it's sitting there, you're looking around and you checkmark it. 650 grains. Right there. And they make sure your arrow is 650 grains, all front of center. This spine tolerance on these arrows are the highest you can get, 0.1%. I mean, they're right there with all the premium arrows. And they fly amazing. These things are amazingly accurate, even though I do believe that you can make your arrows accurate. The arrow is not inherently more accurate. But so, and why I'm so awesome about this. One, when you buy these arrows, they keep track of what you buy. So when you want to get invested in these, because it's more of an investment, you buy a test kit. You then take your test kit, we'll have 2 arrows, probably have 2 different spines, and you will go shoot them, and you'll have to saw and cut, maybe, and make sure they're flying perfect. Then you will call them up again and you will order your arrows, and they mark it down, and if you mess up in some way, they will call you to confirm your order. So if you bought a test kit, you're like, man, these 250s work great, you buy them, you come back 6 months later to buy more arrows, or a year later, and you're like, all right, I need a 250, or I can't remember the length of it. Like, I think it's a 250 31 inch, and it was actually 30. They will call you and say, hey, are you sure you want that? I've never had an arrow company do that. You're not going to get that with other arrow companies. Now, the second thing is their outsert. So I shot Victory, and these are made by Victory. These arrows are made by Victory. They're Grizzly Sticks by Victory. I mean, I don't know the exact affiliation. I just know it even says right here, Victory arrows. It says custom Victory powered, so I'm assuming Victory makes the shafts for them. But they have this outsert system, which is great. You can screw in more weights back here, make it higher FOC. They all come with a standard 200 grain point, or they come with it. They base everything off a 200 grain point to get that 650. And if you want to lighten it up, you can just put 100 grain in there, and now you're in that 550 range, which I think's perfect for medium-sized long-range shooting. Some people might even like it for out west, shooting far out there. So, like I said, the outsert system's great. Victory's normal, standard aluminum outsert system. I don't like. It bends, it hits something hard, and you'll get your arrow and it's off the side. It's awful. I don't like it. These are relatively tough, but if you're like, all right, Grizzly, these brass outserts are not that great. They even have an ethics upgrade system. So you can actually upgrade to ethics, and they will put them in and make sure, and you can adjust them and cut them right. And you have that stainless steel, perfect penetration power up front. And I'm amazed by that. Another thing that makes these separate from your standard 204 diameter arrow is there is a taper in it. Now they say it's like a 0.1 or 0.3 taper. It feels bigger than that. I'm not gonna lie. You can definitely tell. It's not like obvious, like, oh my gosh, but you can tell that taper. Referencing Ed Ashby's studies, that taper adds penetration. Penetration's the #1 factor in killing your animal. So outside of actually hitting the vitals. Under penetration kills your arrow's lethality. So that's another thing I'm trying to sit here and go through. They come in 2 different vane configurations, vane or feathers. You got these 2-inch vanes. They look like a blazer vane standard. And then you can go with the feathers. They have a right helical to them. I like the feathers a lot. They just slow it down, and I've noticed I don't need very many vanes. Obviously, if you're a traditional hunter, I would recommend these. As far as compound hunters, these or even like lower profile vanes. And then of course they even have a 1,000, 1,200 grain, I think, or maybe it's 1,100, I can't remember. So if you're going dangerous game hunting, that's what you're going to use. Downside, so here's your downside is, when I took these and put them on my spine tester, again, every spine tester is different, they did not come out right all the time. So it was like they were not spine tested at the shop when they prefab these. So there's a knock. I don't care, as you can tell with this one. Actually, that's my up vane, and that one's not. And I just went through and marked them and said, not tuned them on the spine tester. And I do that with all my arrows. So that's just me. Another thing is that if you're like, okay, I want to fletch them myself. So so when these fall off, I put Boeing low profile vanes on them because I get a little bit more speed out of them. They don't ship correctly. So what does that mean? So if you mark 650 grains and you're like, all right, I want to make a 650 grain arrow. I want to do it the way you're supposed to do it. Bare shaft, full length, and I'm cutting it down a quarter inch at a time till it's perfect, till that arrow flies perfect. And you're like, I want 650 grains, so you're going to start with all that weight up front. You're not going to be able to do it. But let's say you're a compound guy and you're like, well, I kind of know what my arrow length should be. And you're like, but you have some cool vanes, you want to fletch them on your own. You're like, listen, I need a 29-inch arrow, 650 grains. I need the 250 spined arrow. You just know this. They will not ship right weight. They don't do that, and that's kind of a downside to me in their excuses. Well, we don't know your vane weight, and I think that's a pretty big cop-out. I think I would like them to send more weight in the back, because you're paying an upcharge to get that 650 grains. I'd like to see them ship you like little 20 grain weights in the back of it, so it's like, well, maybe you might have a 670 grain arrow, and you could always take that off and go down. But I don't know. That's one negative I find. Second thing is they're not always in stock, so they don't have a huge selection of stock. When you order, sometimes it takes a lot longer for them to get shipped out. When they have it in stock, it ships quickly. And I think their customer service absolutely rocks. So I give them a wash on that. The last thing is price. These are a premium arrow. Could you do something like this pretty close to it on a cheaper budget? And the answer is yes. You could buy like your what's that? Those X-Force, not X-Force, I can't even remember. The Victory V-Force, that's it. V-Force arrows, and you get the Ethics archery insert, and you could mark it out and get it all right. You could. It's going to take a lot more time, and I don't think they're as lethal as these. I think these work better. But you're going to pay that price. You're going to pay a price. You're going to pay a lot for these. I'm not going to comment price because someone might watch this 6 months from now and the price might change. But you're going to pay for this. But so it's always on what's a budget. So if you're like me and you want the most lethal arrow flying down range, these are it, with the customer service, with their specialty bow techs, where you can call a bow tech and say, hey, here's my setup. They are so good that they could probably tell you what you're going to shoot. And I saw this, I called them up and said, hey, I got this, this, and this. And the guy was like, that's the arrow, here's what you need to shoot. And he goes, and he got it down to the point where most people wouldn't even know. They would have just shot it and went. So that's the grizzly stick arrows. And then of course they have grizzly stick broadheads, and I think they're amazing. The red line, I think, is your best economical broadhead on the market, single bevel broadhead on the market. And that's the one you guys saw me put down my fallow deer with. So that worked great. And if you don't believe in the single bevel, I suggest you go watch that fallow deer. Go watch that fallow deer hunt and tell me that single bevel doesn't work. So again, grizzly stick momentums, they get a big thumbs up from me. They are the easiest way to build a heavy arrow because they do all the work for you. It does come with a cost. I think it's worth it, especially when you start talking about the way you're going to hunt. So shoulder blades are not a problem with these bad boys. These shoulder palms are not an issue. So if you like the channel, hit that subscribe button. We are growing and I'm seeing it and I'm loving it. We are getting into the summer, and with this COVID thing, we're kind of in the mixture. I'm trying to put videos, at least one video out per month or per week. So hit this like button if you like the video. Go get some grizzly sticks if you want to quit chasing your deer for 3-8 hours at a time, and practice, tune your arrows, practice, and you'll get it. And remember to always keep it heavy.